So when should I refinance my mortgage? That's the question with the lowest rates, lowest mortgage rates, and the lowest 10-year rates, and the lowest pretty much everything rates in history of the country. When should I refinance? How do I know when it's time to refinance? So that is what we're going to go through today. Today, I'm going to give you, and we can cut to the PowerPoint now, boom, an insider's guide to help you refinance wisely. Okay, a lot of people have rule of thumbs out there. Well, if you can drop a point, if you can do this, if you can do that, don't listen to any of that crap. When to do it, when not to do it. I will tell you both. And how to calculate benefits appropriately. It's not just about payment. It is not just about rate. It is about total cost and many other things. I will make this as easy for you as possible. So first thing you need to consider is, where are the savings? Where am I saving money? You have to determine that. Look at your remaining loan. Don't just look at your interest rate and your payment, but look at how much you owe and how many years you have left. We're going to use an example for this that I just worked on last week. So this is an actual example, but it's still an example and hypothetical situation totally, where an individual owes $572,000. The value of their home is $950,000. Good for them, right? All this equity. But they have 4.75%. They got this 3 years ago, which means there's 27 years remaining. So the principal and interest payment on this loan was $3,001 per month. Always look at just the principal and interest payment. Do not look at your total payment with taxes and insurance and then ask someone to quote you a new total payment with taxes and insurance. I know you want to know what the total payment is, but when you're comparing the two, people will screw up on the impound stuff on the payment they're quoting you, whereas the payment that you're paying is actually true. So if they do that and you count on that, they could be wrong, and you made a decision based on wrong information. So always just use the principal and interest payment in order to determine whether you're comparing one loan versus another. So principal and interest payment is $3,001. So total remaining, how do we calculate this? 27 years remaining, 27 times 12 times 3,001. That's $972,000. So in order to own this home free and clear, in other words, the value of this mortgage is $972,324. Quite a bit. Now, what you do is you compare that information with your proposed loan. And I'm not talking about cash out right now because rates are really low. We're just talking about, should I refinance to get a lower rate in payment, which is what most people want to do. Some people want to cash out. We'll talk about that later. Proposed loan. The loan I was able to get her after qualifications. She qualified for a 3.25%, 30-year fixed. I bumped the loan amount up $6,000 to pay for closing costs and impounds, so she didn't have to come out of pocket with anything. So we're doing this new loan at $578,000. So bigger loan amount, and this one is also going to be for 30 years. The principal and interest payment on this one, instead of 27, is $25.15 per month. So you look at that and you go, okay, well, it's a lower rate, it's a lower payment. Yeah, I got to start all over, those 3 years, but should probably be a good deal for me, right? Total payout, $905,576. This is how you really know. This is the most important thing to compare, because a lot of times when you compare a payment with another one, the new payment is lower because you're recasting the loan out to 30 years. However, in this particular situation, the total payout is also less. So if we look, so we're going to compare the monthly savings first. So $3,001 versus $2,515, no brainer, $486 a month in savings. Okay, we're saving monthly, love it. What is the long-term savings? Current payout, remaining on the 27 years we have on the loan, $972. Proposed, even though it's 30 years, still saving $66,000. So this is it. If you can save monthly and save long-term, this is what we call the no-brainer. If both of those numbers are positive for you, then it's a no-brainer refinance. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't get better terms potentially by shopping around. And we'll talk about shopping around here in just a minute because there's a lot of misconceptions about that, but I will talk about that. If both of those things, the monthly savings and the long-term savings, are both positive for you, that's what we call a no-brainer. You definitely pull the trigger on that. We'll also talk about locking here in a second. Also a reminder, if you have a VA loan, it's much easier to refinance and rates are lower than conventional loans. So give me a call if you have questions about those. All right, what if it's not both positive? What if I'm not saving monthly and long-term? What if I'm just saving monthly, but I'm not saving long-term? You have to ask yourself, what are you risking? So if I have a greater long-term payout, let's say my total payout now goes up $15 or $20 or $50,000, whatever it may be, and the reward is that I have monthly cash flow, I get a lower monthly payment. You just have, this is the typical situation where it doesn't pencil in a refi, even though you're lowering your rate, you're lowering your payment, but you've had your loan for 7 or 8 years. So because of that, now you're going back to 30 years, you're going to pay more out on your house total than you would if you just kept your current loan. And if that's the case, you have to ask yourself, is there value in it? If you can save $300, $400, $500 a month, is that worth it to you to pay more in the long run if you're ultimately going to stay in your home for a long period of time? And that's another question you have to ask yourself is, how long do you plan on being there? If you don't plan on being there for much longer and you just need a couple years of cash flow, then it can make total sense to do that, even though it's not the smarter long-term decision. You don't have a long-term strategy. So this is the thing you have to consider. Now, let's go and look at debt consolidations. And if you have questions about any specific scenarios, you can call or text me at the number on the screen or email me as well if you prefer. So does it make sense to consolidate debts into a mortgage? Credit cards, car loans, things like that. Typically, it doesn't. But if you have a lot of equity and you're struggling with credit cards and it's hurting your credit score or it's causing problems, it is an okay thing to consider. And you have to do it on a case-by-case basis. But you got to remember, you're stretching out the debt. So your credit card, which isn't amortized, you just pay it back as you have the money available, is now going to be stretched out to a 30-year or 25 or 20-year term, which means you will probably pay out more in the long run. But you can have massive windfalls of cash flow, which could be worth it to you. And that cash flow is a lot of times what people are looking for in a refinance. So when you pay off your credit cards, it definitely helps your credit score. Stretching out the debt causes you to pay more in the long run in some cases, but the creation of good cash flow makes it worth it for a lot of people because that's what they want. If you're going to look at this, careful calculations are needed in order to really determine how much benefit there is and how much you're risking on this. Reach out to me and I'm happy to do that for you. And also remember that this can be a bad habit. When values are going up, this is something that you can create a habit around and just say, well, if we run the credit cards up again, we'll just refinance the house. If you catch yourself thinking that, then know that we need to rewire something because this can create bad habits that can end up causing big problems. We've seen that before, so just be careful with the debt consolidation stuff. Although it is doable, and by the way, I should also say with debt consolidation, if you have a VA loan, you can borrow up to 100% of the value of the home to consolidate debts and get cash out. The rates are a little higher than they are for normal VA refinances, but it is something you can do if you have a great investment property or if you want to diversify your investments. It's something that can be done, so I should make that aware. Fixed or adjustable. A lot of people are getting 7-year ARMs, 5-year ARMs right now because the rates are lower than the fixed rates. Are you mad? What are you thinking? So you get fixed rates when rates are low. When rates are low, fix it in. When rates are high, that's when you want to get an adjustable so that you can float the rate down over time without having to refinance. When rates are low, get a fixed rate. You would not believe how many people are asking me, should they get a 5-1 or 7-1 ARM? And then they might say, well, we only plan to be here for 4 or 5 years. And if that's the case, okay, then get an adjustable rate. But is it worth it? What if you change your mind? What if you say, gosh, we really like this place, we'd like to stay here. Well, we got this adjustable rate, which is now going to adjust up 2% or 4%, and rates have gone up, so our payment's going to go up a ton. I just don't think it's worth it. I think paying a little extra for a fixed rate buys you a lot of insurance, a lot of peace of mind, and ultimately more options. So I'm not a proponent of the adjustable rate. All right, but when do you get an ARM? When does it make sense to get an adjustable rate mortgage? If you're feeling lucky, go for it. If rates are really high, then go for it. If you have a short-term plan to be in a property, I hope it all works out for you. Who knows? I mean, if you say we're going to be in this house for 3 more years, well, gosh, I don't know what the market's going to look like in 3 years from now. I know you don't either. Nobody does. So I hope that it works out for you. What if the market is just terrible 3 years from now, but you've already set up your plan to sell in 3 years? If you had a fixed rate, you would have the option to say, you know what, let's stick it out a few more years. Maybe this isn't a good time. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible. You just remove the option when you get the ARM, and I hate that. When should you lock the rate? We have a saying in the industry, if you like it, lock it. If you look at a rate and you like it, lock it. Here's a little bit of advice. If you have a good rate already, let's say you have a conventional loan at 3.75%. You have a pretty good rate. Okay, you can get in the low threes, but not a huge amount. And you're fixed. You can wait. You could be more aggressive. You can say, you know what? I'm going to keep waiting. See if rates go lower, because you don't have that much to lose. If rates jump up to 5% overnight, you didn't have that much on the table. But I have people with 5%. They have 5%. So we're getting a 3.5 or a 3.25 or a 3.75. There's a lot to lose there if rates go up overnight for those folks. So if you like it, lock it. And if rates move far enough down, if the lender you're working with is like myself and my bank, American Pacific Mortgage, through Align Mortgage, then you have the ability to float the rate down if the market moves drastically lower, and you can get people. In fact, last week I sent out several texts and emails to people who are already locked with me whose rate went down by 0.25%, just because I have that policy, I paid attention to it and made sure that they got it. So, when you lock the rate, if you like it, lock it. All right. Shopping around. Shopping around for mortgage loan. A lot of misconceptions here, so I want to go through a couple things. So first of all, use someone local. Do not use the call center in Indiana. Okay, I know you think you're going to get a lower rate, but those people have no accountability to you. None. You are not going to stop by their office. They're never going to see you in the grocery store. They have absolutely no accountability to you, which means the opportunity for misdirection, mischief, misinformation, lies, let's call them what they are, is greater. If I'm giving someone a loan here in San Diego, I'm going to see them. They're going to see me. That matters, doesn't it? It just built-in accountability. Like, you have to tell people the truth. If I'm in a call center in Ohio, I'm never going to see you. So I could BS you all day. I get paid if you sign on the dotted line, so I'm going to say whatever it takes. That is the kind of thing you want to avoid. So use someone local, someone referred to you, someone that you trust. It's very important. Beware the fine print. It's all over the place. People quoting rates, and then you look into it and you see there's tons of fees. I talked to a gentleman last week. He spent $15,000 on his refinance. $15,000 he was gouged. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I felt so bad for him, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. I mean, they ripped you off, man. So watch out the fine print. If you need me to look at documents for you, just let me know. If you need me to look at an offer that you've received because you think it doesn't feel right, let me know. Okay, I'll look at that for you. Inquiries are not as bad as you think. A lot of people are afraid to shop around because they're worried about getting inquiries. They're not as bad as you think, especially for a mortgage. I pulled a lady's credit last week who had been shopping around. Her previous credit pull was 3 weeks prior with a different lender. She called me, she said, I'm worried about my credit pull. I said, do you know your credit scores on that report? She told me the 3 scores. I pulled the report, exact 3 scores. Exact same scores. You do not get penalized for shopping for a mortgage the way that you get penalized for shopping for a car loan, or which isn't as bad either, or a credit card. If you're putting in lots of applications for credit cards, that sends up a bunch of red flags because they know that people don't shop for credit cards. And what it probably means is that they're denying you. And so that looks bad. It makes you look desperate and your credit scores can go down a lot. That's really where the big risk is with inquiries, not mortgages. So don't be worried about mortgages. It's good to shop around. It's good to get a couple opinions. It's good to get a couple quotes. But remember, those quotes don't mean anything unless they're written in the form of a loan estimate. Okay. Also, go with your gut on these things. Like if your gut is telling you like, hey, this doesn't quite feel right, listen to that. Listen to that. It's never too late to pull out. It's never too late to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Or, hey, I think I'm going to check around a little bit. It's totally okay. Do what's best for you. This is a big deal. It's very important. Make sure you get details up front. And what I mean by details is the loan estimate. If you're going to get a quote, but it doesn't mean anything until you fill out an application and they actually send you a loan estimate. That's when it's official. That's when they're saying, okay, this is now our offer to you. And even though that can change over the course of the loan still, unless your rate is locked, ask about those details and ask if you're locked. Ask if your rate is locked because that is an important thing to know as well. All right, some reminders. Look for the no-brainer calculation first. If you are not winning monthly and over the long haul, then you have to ask yourself, is there value in the benefit that you're receiving, which is usually cash flow? And if it's valuable to you, then go ahead and stick with it. It's fine. Remember, it's your decision, but make sure that you know what you're looking at, and don't just sign up to remortgage your house every few years. Okay, make sure it makes sense. It should not cost an arm and a leg to refinance. Ask about costs. Ask about points. Ask about fees. Okay, there's some lenders charge lots of fees. They do. I'm not one of them, but there are a lot of them that do. There are some that are quoting rates that are associated with points. I never do that. Would never do that. I'm quoting par rates to people, the rates that don't cost you anything, because that's what you expect from a quote. That's what you should get. But you have to ask a lot with some of these people, so just know that. And then the last reminder is, if you like it, lock it. If you like the quote you've gotten from your lender, tell them you want to get locked in. Say, okay, I like these terms, let's lock it in. If they say, well, we have to do a whole bunch of things, we have to get an appraisal, we have to get that in before we can lock, BS. Call BS. Say, no, I want to get a rate lock. I want you to send me a copy of my lock confirmation, or I am not going to proceed. Take a hard line. This is too important to let someone bulldoze you over your mortgage. It just should never happen. All right. So if you are interested in seeing what you can get in today's marketplace, all you have to do to get started is go to DerekEvans.com. This is just my link to my application. If you're interested in seeing what kind of rate can I get, a rate that's going to save me a bunch of money. Maybe I already have the best rate that I can get, but if you want to find out, go to DerekEvans.com. And you'll start there if you're on your, oh, did I not put it on this one? I guess I didn't. Here's our disclaimer. So if you are on your mobile phone, that will work. If you're on a desktop, that will work. But you can call or email me, text me anytime if you have questions about this stuff. Again, NMLS 155010. Not everyone should refinance. Not everyone should refinance. I've told multiple people, don't do it. Because in my opinion, it didn't make sense. I explained to them the benefits. I explained to them the costs. If you have a shorter term loan, if you've got a 30-year loan but you've been paying it for 18 years, you're pretty much just paying principal now. The interest is done. It doesn't matter if your rate is 5%. You've pretty much paid all the interest at that point. Your effective interest rate is like 0 or 0.5. So you have to look at that too. When you've been in a loan for a long period of time, there's also certain circumstances there where it just simply doesn't make sense to refinance no matter what the rates are. Unless you are so keenly attached to the idea of increasing cash flow that you have to do it, it won't make sense to do it in those situations. So hopefully that helps you figure out if you have a no-brainer refinance situation. A lot of people will in this particular marketplace, but throughout the years, rates fluctuate and change, and it's important for you to know how to calculate what am I really getting and what is the real benefit to me. So I hope it helps. Share this with your friends. Let's help make everyone smarter than everyone else.